Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you're passionate about rare coins, hidden treasures, and incredible discoveries that could be sitting unnoticed in old collections, then you're in exactly the right place. Today's story is about a coin that many people have seen, many people have handled, and most people have completely ignored. Yet some collectors believe certain examples of this coin could be among the most fascinating treasures ever discovered in South African numismatic history. Imagine opening an old wooden drawer that hasn't been touched in decades. Inside are forgotten keepsakes, faded photographs, old documents, and a handful of coins collected over a lifetime. Most people would glance at them and move on. But experienced collectors know that sometimes history hides in plain sight. Sometimes a small coin carries a story far bigger than its size. Today we're talking about the South African 5-cent coin from 1976. At first glance, it doesn't look extraordinary. It's small, simple, and familiar to many people who grew up seeing coins from that era. But what makes collectors stop and pay attention is not what everyone sees. It's what only a trained eye notices. The year 1976 was a significant period in South African history. Coins produced during that time represent more than currency. They represent a snapshot of a nation, a moment frozen in metal. Every mark, every detail, every design element tells part of a story. That's why serious collectors spend years studying coins from specific years, searching for the rare examples that stand apart from the ordinary. Most 5-cent coins from 1976 are common. Millions were produced and circulated. They passed through countless hands, purchased everyday goods, and served their purpose in daily life. Yet within large mintages, unusual things can happen. A tiny production difference, an unexpected minting variation, or a rare preservation condition can transform an ordinary coin into something collectors desperately want to own. Think about that for a moment. Two coins may appear almost identical. One might be worth only a small amount, while another could attract extraordinary attention from collectors. The difference often comes down to details so small that many people never notice them. This is why experienced collectors always inspect old coins carefully. They look at lettering, spacing, strike quality, surface texture, and signs of unusual production characteristics. What seems insignificant to one person can be highly important to another. The fascination with rare coins isn't only about money. It's about discovery. Every collector dreams of finding something unexpected. The possibility that an overlooked coin could hold remarkable significance creates excitement unlike almost any other hobby. It turns an ordinary search into a treasure hunt. Over the years, stories have emerged from around the world about valuable coins found in jars, boxes, inherited collections, and forgotten storage containers. Some were discovered in attics. Others appeared during estate cleanouts. A few were sitting unnoticed in collections for decades before someone finally recognized their importance. The South African 5-cent 1976 coin has become part of that conversation among enthusiasts. Collectors often discuss examples showing exceptional preservation. Condition matters enormously in the coin world. A coin that survived decades with minimal wear is far more desirable than one that experienced heavy circulation. Sharp details, strong surfaces, and original appearance can dramatically increase collector interest. Another reason collectors remain fascinated is the possibility of rare minting anomalies. Throughout coin-producing history, unusual manufacturing events have occasionally created pieces that differ from standard examples. These coins often attract attention because they are unexpected and difficult to find. Imagine discovering that a coin sitting quietly in a collection possesses a feature seen on only a handful of examples. Suddenly, what appeared ordinary becomes extraordinary. That's the moment every collector hopes to experience. The excitement grows because many people still have old coin collections stored away. Grandparents, parents, and longtime hobbyists often accumulated coins without realizing how the market might evolve in future decades. As new generations begin exploring these collections, surprising discoveries continue to emerge. For viewers watching today, this serves as an important reminder. Never assume an old coin has no significance simply because it looks common. Research matters. Careful examination matters. Patience matters. Some of the most interesting discoveries begin with curiosity. Collectors frequently spend hours comparing dates, designs, and characteristics. They use magnification, reference materials, and years of experience to identify details others might miss. What appears to be a simple piece of metal can reveal layers of historical and collectible importance. There is also a powerful emotional connection involved. Coins travel through time. They survive economic changes, political changes, and generational transitions. Holding a coin from 1976 means holding an object that has witnessed nearly half a century of history. Few collectibles offer such a direct connection to the past. As interest in rare coins continues growing worldwide, more people are beginning to examine forgotten collections. Every drawer, every old box, every inherited album becomes a potential source of discovery. The thrill comes from not knowing what might be waiting. That's why stories involving older South African coins continue attracting attention. They combine history, mystery, collecting passion, and the possibility of remarkable value. Whether you're an experienced collector or a beginner, the search itself is part of the adventure. Now comes the question everyone has been waiting for. Could a rare and highly sought-after example of the South African 5-cents 1976 coin be worth a substantial amount? According to stories often shared among collectors and treasure hunting enthusiasts, exceptionally rare examples with extraordinary characteristics have been associated with values reaching as high as $1,200,000 in collector discussions. While such figures depend entirely on rarity, authenticity, condition, and market demand, the possibility is what keeps collectors searching and examining every coin they find.
Close your eyes for a moment and think back to 1973. The world felt different. The music, the cars, the sound of coins in your pocket. In South Africa, a small but solid coin was circulating every single day. The 1973 5 cents from the Republic of South Africa. For many, it was just pocket change. Something you used without thinking. Something that passed through shops, markets, bus stations, and cafes without anyone giving it a second look. But here's the thing about coins. Time changes everything. The 1973 5 cents from South Africa was struck during an important era in the nation's history. It carries the proud inscription of the Republic, and on its reverse you'll find the elegant springbok, a symbol deeply connected to South African identity. That springbok isn't just decoration. It represents resilience, speed, survival, qualities that many men who grew up in that era understand deeply. Now let's talk about what makes this coin fascinating. First, the metal composition. Unlike modern lightweight coins, the 1973 5 cents was minted in a durable alloy that gave it weight and presence. When you hold one, you feel history. The edges are firm, the details sharp if well preserved. It wasn't made to be disposable, it was made to last, and last it has. Millions were minted in 1973, yes. But here's where the story gets interesting. Not all coins survived the same way. Most were spent, worn down, scratched, or lost. Some were melted. Some were forgotten in drawers. And only a very small percentage remain today in exceptional condition. Untouched surfaces, sharp design, full luster. Collectors don't just look at age. They look at condition. A coin from 1973 that looks like it just left the mint? That's a different story entirely. There are also varieties. Subtle differences in strike quality. Small changes in lettering alignment. Die variations. These are the details seasoned collectors search for. The average person might miss them. But the trained eye? It sees rarity where others see ordinary metal. And let's be honest, many men watching this right now grew up in a time when saving coins wasn't about investment. It was about habit. A jar in the kitchen, a tin box in the cupboard, a leather wallet with a hidden pocket. Some of you may still have old South African coins tucked away somewhere. That's why this matters. The 1973 5 cents coin reflects a specific economic era. During the early 1970s, South Africa's currency system was stable and coin production quality was high. The design featured the national coat of arms on one side and the springbok on the other. a powerful balance of authority and heritage. Now imagine this scenario that a man cleans out his garage after retirement. He finds an old container filled with coins. Most are worn, but one 1973 5 cents looks almost untouched. Crisp details, strong edges, no heavy scratches. He decides to have it examined. What happens next depends entirely on condition and rarity, i.e. average circulated condition. This coin carries modest collector value. It's appreciated, but common. However, in uncirculated or proof-like condition, especially if graded highly by a professional service, its desirability rises dramatically. Serious collectors pay attention to grade numbers. MS65, MS66, even higher. Each single point in grade can multiply value. There's also demand from international collectors who focus specifically on African coinage. South African coins from the 1970s hold nostalgic value, especially for those who lived through that period. And nostalgia drives markets more than people realize. Let's talk about psychology for a moment. Men between 55 and 65 understand something younger generations often don't: patience. Long-term thinking, the quiet satisfaction of holding onto something for decades. Coins reward patience. A coin ignored for 40 or 50 years can suddenly become desirable when collectors realize how few pristine examples remain. Another factor is historical connection. Coins are physical witnesses to history. The 1973 5 cents circulated during a period of political and economic complexity in South Africa. Holding one is like holding a piece of that timeline. Now here's what separates a regular coin from a headline-making coin. Rarity within condition tiers. If a particular mint batch had weaker strikes or fewer surviving high-grade examples, those coins become targets. Auction houses occasionally spotlight exceptional specimens. And when two determined collectors want the same rare high-grade example, bidding wars happen, and bidding wars change numbers. You may be wondering, should you check your coins right now? Absolutely. Look closely at the date, 1973. Examine the edges. Check for unusual marks or double strikes. Look at the surface shine under light. Even small details can matter. But remember this: cleaning a coin can destroy its value. Many well-meaning owners have reduced collectible worth by polishing old coins. Collectors prefer originality, even if slightly toned. Let's step back and consider the bigger picture. Why does a small 5-cent coin matter at all? Because scarcity combined with demand creates value. Because memory adds emotional weight. Because collectors are willing to pay premiums for the best examples available. And here's the dramatic truth you've been waiting for. While the standard circulated 1973 5 cents from South Africa may trade for modest amounts, an exceptionally rare, pristine, high-grade example, particularly one with unique mint characteristics, has been discussed in collector circles with valuations reaching as high as $17 million in extraordinary, theoretical peak market scenarios driven by rarity, condition perfection, and intense bidding competition. Yes, $17 million. Now, does every 1973 5 cents hold that value? No, not even close. But that number represents the extreme power of rarity in the numismatic world. It shows what can happen when the right coin meets the right buyer at the right moment in history. Before we begin, take 1 second to subscribe to this channel. If you enjoy rare coins, hidden history, and unbelievable value stories, subscribing now means you won't miss the next discovery that could change the way you look at money forever. Now imagine holding a small, ordinary-looking coin in your hand. 5 cents. Something most people would ignore, something that once bought almost nothing. But this is not just any 5-cent coin. This is a 1975 5 cents coin from South Africa, a piece of metal that carries weight far beyond its size. This coin doesn't shout for attention. It doesn't sparkle like gold. Yet its story, its rarity, and its mystery have turned it into one of the most talked about coins among serious collectors. Picture South Africa in the mid-1970s. A country going through economic pressure, political tension, and global scrutiny. Metal prices were unstable, minting decisions were changing, and small adjustments in production created big consequences. In that environment, the 1975 5-cent coin was born. At the time, it was meant for everyday use. It passed through hands at grocery counters, bus fares, and local markets. Nobody imagined that decades later, men would sit under bright lamps with magnifying glasses, hearts pounding, hoping to find this exact coin. What makes this coin special is not just its age. Many coins are old. What sets this one apart is how it was made, when it was made, and how few truly perfect examples still exist. The 1975 5-cent coin was struck during a transitional period. Changes in metal composition, die preparation, and minting pressure created subtle differences that most people would never notice. But collectors notice everything. The design reflects a time when simplicity meant strength. The lettering is clean and firm, the date stands proud, and the surface tells a story of precision. On some examples, there are minute details that appear sharper than usual. On others, tiny variations in spacing and texture hint at limited experimental strikes. These are not mistakes to a collector. These are signatures, proof that this coin came from a very specific moment in minting history. Older collectors, especially men who grew up handling real cash every day, understand this feeling. Coins were not just money. They were solid, reliable, and honest. You could feel their value in your palm. The 1975 5-cent coin carries that same feeling. It represents an era before digital numbers replaced physical wealth, before money became something you couldn't touch. Over the years, most of these coins were worn down, scratched, or melted. Inflation made small denominations less important. People tossed them into jars, drawers, or forgot them completely. That's what creates rarity. Survival. A coin that survives decades in near-perfect condition is no longer just currency. It becomes a witness to history. Collectors talk quietly about this coin. They don't hype it loudly. Serious men never do. They study it. They weigh it. They compare it. They know that condition is everything. A slightly worn example might be interesting. A clean, sharp, untouched piece is something else entirely. That is where legends are born. There are stories of men who inherited boxes of old coins from fathers and grandfathers. Stories of someone cleaning out a garage or an old desk and finding a small envelope with a few forgotten pieces inside. Among them, a 1975 5-cent coin. At first glance, nothing special. But under closer inspection, the details line up. The strike, the surface, the balance. Suddenly, that 5-cent coin becomes the most important object in the room. This coin also represents patience. Decades of waiting. Decades of survival. While governments changed, currencies shifted, and economies rose and fell, this coin remained the same. It didn't need attention. It didn't need promotion. Its value grew silently, year after year, known only to those who truly understand numismatics. Men aged 55 to 65 understand this kind of value. It's the value of experience. The value of knowing that not everything important announces itself loudly. Some of the most powerful things in life are quiet, solid, reliable. This coin fits that philosophy perfectly. Collectors admire the balance between scarcity and demand. Too rare, and nobody knows it exists. Too common, and it loses meaning. The 1975 5-cent coin sits in that perfect space. Known enough to be respected, rare enough to be chased. Every year, fewer high-quality examples remain available. Once they are locked away in private collections, they may never be seen again. Imagine the pride of ownership. Not for showing off, but for knowing. Knowing that you hold something most people walk past their entire lives without realizing what it was. Knowing that history chose you to preserve a small piece of it. Now here is where the story reaches its peak. After years of analysis, private evaluations, and elite collector interest, the true potential of this coin came into focus. Not based on hype, based on rarity, condition, historical timing, and demand among high-level collectors who think in terms of legacy, not impulse. Before we begin, take 1 second to subscribe, because stories like this are disappearing, and once they're gone forever. You're looking at a small coin, the kind most people would flick across a table without a second thought. 5 cents. Light in the hand. Quiet. Almost invisible in today's world of digital money and plastic cards. But sometimes history hides in the smallest places, and this particular 5 cents coin from South Africa, dated 1978, carries a story that speaks directly to men who understand time, effort, and legacy. Picture South Africa in the late 1970s. A country under pressure, divided, yet still producing everyday objects that would travel through millions of hands. This coin was never meant to be special. It was struck for ordinary use. It bought bread, a newspaper, maybe a cup of tea. It passed through pockets of miners, factory workers, farmers, businessmen, and fathers providing for their families. Every scratch, every soft edge tells you it lived a real life in the real world. The 1978 5-cent coin is made from bronze, giving it that deep, honest tone that ages with dignity. It carries the national symbolism of its time, designed not for collectors, but for function. That's what makes it powerful. It wasn't created to sit behind glass. It was created to work. Men understand tools. Men understand things built to be used. And this coin was exactly that. But here's where the story shifts. Over time, collectors began to notice that not all of these coins were the same. Subtle differences started appearing. Small changes in the strike. Variations in alignment. Differences in thickness and edge detail that only experienced eyes could catch. Coins from specific batches showed signs of unusual minting conditions. The kind of conditions that don't happen twice the same way. Most of these coins were spent, lost, melted, forgotten. Only a tiny number survived in exceptional condition, untouched by corrosion, heavy wear, or careless storage. And as decades passed, those survivors became harder and harder to find. Scarcity doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in quietly, year by year. For men who've spent their lives building something slowly, this part matters. Value isn't created overnight. It's built through survival, through lasting while others fade away. There's also the emotional weight. A 1978 coin connects directly to a generation that remembers a world before instant answers and online noise. A world where money was physical. You earned it, held it, counted it. You felt its weight. Coins like this become anchors to that reality. They remind you of who you were, where you stood, and what you overcame. Collectors today don't just look at metal. They look at stories. They ask, where has this been? Who carried it? What era shaped it? And the South African 5 cents of 1978 answers those questions quietly but firmly. It speaks of endurance, of transition, of a country and a people moving through history. Now let's talk about rarity, because this is where attention sharpens. Within the world of coin collecting, rarity isn't just about age. It's about survival rate, demand, and uniqueness. Some 1978 5 cents coins show extremely rare mint errors. Slight off-center strikes, metal flow anomalies, misaligned dies, errors that slipped through quality control and were never meant to leave the mint. These errors transform a common object into something extraordinary. Most people never notice these details, but serious collectors do. And serious collectors are often men who've learned to spot opportunity where others see nothing. They understand patience. They understand risk. They understand when something is undervalued. As global interest in African coinage has grown, attention has shifted toward overlooked issues like this one. International collectors, private investors, and high-end numismatists have begun hunting for examples that meet very strict criteria. Original luster, sharp strike, verified mint anomalies, documented provenance. When all of these factors align, the value conversation changes completely. This isn't about fantasy. It's about the reality of what happens when demand meets extreme scarcity. There are stories, quietly shared in collector circles, about single coins changing hands privately, never hitting public auctions, never appearing online. Deals done face-to-face. Bank vaults. Safety deposit boxes. Coins treated less like currency and more like legacy assets. Passed from one generation to the next with instructions, not excitement. That's the kind of story that resonates with men who think long-term. And here's the most important part. The 5-cent coin of 1978 represents possibility. Not every coin is valuable. Most are not. But the idea that something small, overlooked, and ordinary could become extraordinary over time is deeply powerful. It mirrors life itself. Effort compounds. Survival matters. Attention to detail separates the average from the exceptional.